Hey, so I've never been more excited for a candidate. Well, I'm sorry it got so dark there. I've never been more excited. Let's whisper. I've never been more excited for a presidential candidate, okay, than I am for Andrew Yang. And I've been excited for a lot of people before. Look, I've phone banked for people. I've made videos about people, as you know. I have interned for people who are running for president right now. And there's no one that I've been as excited for as Andrew Yang. And I know a lot of you, are like, who the fuck is Andrew Yang? Pardon my French. And so let me give a bit of a background. Yang is an entrepreneur. He's had companies in Silicon Valley. He started this organization called Venture for America that helped people create businesses, create small businesses, and gave them, loans and support, which is all very cool. But that's not why I love him.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Where you from?
New York.
New York.
Huh?
Where you from?
New York.
New York City.
See. All right, so we're in the park now. The lighting's much better here. It's much quieter. It's much prettier. All right, so what were we talking about? 3 reasons that I love Andrew Yang. Number 1, universal basic income. As I was saying, there's a lot of disasters, crises that seem to be imminent, that everyone's freaking out about currently, that we already talk about all the time, right? Say global warming as an example. Everyone's freaking out about flooding and natural disasters and all that stuff, as they should be. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm just saying it's a disaster that we're aware of and that people are already talking about. But there's one disaster that is even more imminent than global warming that no one seems to be talking about, and that's automation, this fourth revolution in industry. And no one seems to be talking about it. All the research that we have right now says that anywhere from 50% of the of jobs in America will be automated or susceptible to automation for the next 1, 2, 3 decades, depending on where you look. But we're talking about a matter of when, not if. It's when are these jobs going to be automated, not are they going to be automated. And can you just imagine the disastrous effects it would have on the United States if half of the workforce right now was unemployed, and not suddenly, gradually over time. It's not like we're going to get to 2050 and then boom, half the people lost their jobs. It's already happening now, and it's going to continue to happen. It's going to happen to retail workers. It's going to happen to people in customer service on the phone. It's going to happen to people, truck drivers, obviously, Uber drivers, taxi drivers. All these people are going to have their jobs automated, gone, done, over, finito. And no one seems to be overly concerned with this, despite that it's immediately on the horizon, except Andrew Yang. Now, how do you address automation? How do you help fill the fulfillment gap that happens when people don't have their job? I don't know, but what is a little bit easier is dealing with the economic impact of not having a job. And one of the solutions is a universal basic income. Now, this video is not about a universal basic income. We can do another video on that. We can debate about whether it's good, it's bad, what it does, whatever. The point is that it's one hypothetical solution to fix this issue of mass automation that's already happening. And the only candidate right now who's talking about this is Andrew Yang. Do you hear that noise? Oh, it stopped. It stopped right when I started recording. Let's see if it starts up again. I'll be extra quiet. All right, so it doesn't look like it's gonna happen again, but this right here, I don't know how to move my hands on camera. That right there is like a peacock sanctuary where dozens of peacocks live and sometimes squawk very loudly. Second thing that I love about Andrew Yang, data, not dotes. And when I say dotes, I mean anecdotes. Right now, the currency in politics seems to be anecdotes. That's how you win arguments, is can you tell a compelling story of some tragic thing that happened that makes people cry? And if you can, then you won the argument. It doesn't matter if the underlying principle that you're fighting for is, I don't want to say wrong, but not great. It doesn't matter if the underlying policy that you're fighting for would actually harm more people than it would help. None of that matters if you can tell a great story that makes people cry, essentially. And that just seems to be how we argue in politics. It's trading stories back and forth of gang members that murdered someone, or of white nationalists who held a stupid rally because they're idiots. Anyway, my point is, right now the currency in politics seems to be anecdotes, and that's nonsense, right? Anecdotes are a good starting place to do some more investigation, but we should always go off data and research and science and all of that. And that's one thing that Andrew Yang does for every policy that he thinks up. It's all rooted in data. He has shirts, for the love of God, hats that just say math on them. What candidate would just have a hat to promote themselves that says math? It's obviously also poking fun at the whole Asians being great at math thing, which, a lot of Asians great at math. But look, what I'm trying to say here is that whenever Andrew puts forward a policy, it's rooted in data and not just what sounds nice. And that actually brings me to the third thing I love about Andrew Yang, is that he doesn't say things just because they sound nice and fluffy and warm and like he cares about people and da-da-da-da-da. No. He says policies that he genuinely believes, based on the data, would help people. And the perfect example of that is, let's say, raising the minimum wage. Bernie Sanders, a lot of folks, all for raising the minimum wage. Totally respect the spirit behind that. But what happens, right, if you raise the minimum wage? Because of that, you push more companies to automate even quicker. And then those same predictions that we had before, that 50% of the American workforce would be automated in 20 years, maybe now it's 15 years. What happens if you raise the minimum wage to all the people who then lose their job to automation? What happens to them? Do they get any benefit from that higher minimum wage? No, only the people who still have jobs do. That's why Yang's solution is not to raise the minimum wage, it's to create a universal basic income so that it doesn't matter whether or not you have a job, you still have that guaranteed minimum income. So whereas other candidates will say the thing that sounds right, and I'm sure they believe it and believe that it would help, they say the thing that sounds right, which is raising the minimum wage, Yang says the thing that actually is right and would work for people regardless of whether or not they have a job. Another perfect example of this, and it's probably going to feel like I'm picking on Bernie, but perfect example is free college, right? Again, respect the idea and the spirit behind a free college, but do we really want to be incentivizing people to go to college? Does everyone need to go to college? Is college necessary? Because the thing is if you make college free, then you're basically forcing people to go to college, right? Because if college is free, then even more people will go to college than they already do. And then if you don't, or you decide not to, then you're going to be the 1 in 10 person who didn't go to college or didn't graduate. And that's going to look terrible to employers. But anyone who has been to college knows that, maybe it's not all that it's cracked up to be. How much did you really learn in college? I mean, I learned things in college for sure. Did I learn things that I use in my day-to-day work or life now? Not really. I learned a ton more from being in the workforce. When I dropped out of college, I worked for Oxfam for a year, the NGO. I learned a ton working for Oxfam, more than I did in all 5 years of my college career. And I don't want to be too negative on college. It totally has value. I'm glad that I went. I'm glad that I graduated. But it's not necessary. And it's not something that everyone should do 100%. Maybe you would learn more. Maybe you want to learn Chinese. Don't go to college to learn Chinese. Go to China, right? Why would you spend $40,000 going to Yale to learn Chinese if you could spend $40,000 to spend an entire 4 years in China, in some, place outside of Beijing or somewhere out in the country? What's my point here? Okay, let me summarize that. 3 things that I love about Andrew Yang. Number 1, universal basic income. There's a giant disaster on the horizon. That is automation, that is already happening, that is already taking people's jobs, and it's not a bad thing. It just means that there's going to be a lot of people in the workforce who won't be in the workforce in 10, 20 years. And it's going to be a giant problem if you have tens of millions of Americans without a job. And there's something that we need to do about that. Raising the minimum wage won't help. A universal basic income would. Second thing I love about Andrew Yang, data, not dotes. He bases all of his policy positions on data and facts and science not on stories, which right now, like I was saying, the main currency in politics seems to be stories. No, we need to be basing our policy on rational, scientific-backed analyses. God, too many big words there. Third thing that I love about Andrew Yang, he says the things, he believes and puts forward ideas that would actually help people, not just what sounds right. A free college sounds great, but does everyone really need to go to college? Would we be better off spending that money, encouraging them to travel the world, to visit other cultures, to host people maybe from other parts of the world? We could spend that money better elsewhere than forcing kids essentially to go to college or extraordinarily incentivizing them, however you want to phrase it. So I'm so excited. I don't know if Andrew Yang has a shot in hell at winning the presidency. This is not my Donald Trump videos where I predicted that Trump would win. I'm not predicting that Andrew Yang will win. I think he's got a much better shot than people think he does. I think he's going to way overperform at the debates and get a large share of attention starting in June. But it's a long uphill road. So this is not a prediction video. This is just a why I am so excited that someone like Yang is running for president. Anyway, look, how was I going to wrap up this video? Oh yeah, let me know what you think. Who are you most excited about in the 2020 field right now? Are you super pumped to be voting for Trump again? Are you super pumped for someone on the Democratic side? Is there someone who isn't running right now but you wish would? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. I want to go through all the candidates, even though there's really only one that matters to me, and that's Andrew Yang. Just kidding. Donald Trump. Also fascinated still. So, guys, let's talk more soon. I love you all. Bye.